A man buys a ranch, 10,000 acres, cattle on the horizon, a porch, a coffee mug, a sunrise. That's the photo the listing sold him. Here's what it didn't show him. The well pump that died on a Tuesday, a $40,000 fence line washed out in a spring flood, a hay bill that landed the same week the cattle market dropped. 3 years in, and he hasn't kept a single dollar of profit because every cent went straight back into keeping the place alive. Ranching looks like freedom from the outside. From the inside, it's a business where the money arrives twice a year and the bills arrive every single day. And the one variable that decides whether you eat, the weather, doesn't answer to you. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what kind of ranch you'd actually be buying and why almost nobody tells you the truth before you sign. Ranch isn't one business. A hill country guest ranch and a Montana cattle operation share a name and nothing else. This video is about the classic version, the cattle operation, because it eats the most new owners alive. Land is the biggest cost by far. Nationally, pasture land averages under $2,000 an acre, but that number hides a canyon-sized spread. Wyoming ranch land can run near $1,000 an acre. Texas hill country outside Austin, $7,000 to $30,000 an acre. Colorado's Front Range, $15,000 to $50,000. At that price, you're not buying grass, you're buying a view. Here's the trap. A real 500-head operation in Wyoming needs 10,000 to 15,000 acres because the grass is thin. That's $10 to $15 million before a single fence post. The bargain land is cheap because the winters are brutal. You'll feed hay 5 to 7 months a year and your supplier is 90 minutes away. Expensive land taxes you up front. Cheap land taxes you forever. Nobody escapes paying.
You closed on the land. You think you own a ranch. You own a very expensive piece of dirt with the for sale sign just removed. Fencing, $8,000 to $13,000 a mile. A 15,000-acre perimeter plus interior cross-fencing runs $300,000 to $600,000 before a single cow arrives. Water, wells at $8,000 to $25,000 each, plus power and buried pipe. Budget $50,000 to $100,000 minimum. Corrals and a squeeze chute, another $25,000 to $65,000. Hay storage for a herd that eats a bale every 3 days each all winter, $40,000 to $150,000 for a barn big enough to matter. Total infrastructure before the ranch produces $1, $500,000 to over $1 million. A bred cow runs $2,000 to $3,500. 2025 prices have spiked. 500 to 600 pound steers hit roughly $480 per hundredweight at their October peak. A 500 cow herd, $1 to $1.5 million. At 17 to 20 bulls at $3,500 to $50,000 each depending on genetics, and a bull can break a leg crossing a creek and be dead by Monday with no warranty. All in livestock, $1.2 to $2 million. Then the fleet. 2 tractors, $60,000 to $120,000 each. Trucks, $55,000 to $85,000 each. A baler, a trailer. Finance $200,000 of it and you're paying $36,000 to $48,000 a year before you sell a single animal. Experienced ranchers buy used and size the fleet to the herd, not the ego.
Here's the sentence that explains the entire industry. Revenue arrives seasonally, expenses arrive daily. You sell calves once, maybe twice a year, in the fall. USDA figures put annual cow-calf operating costs around $950 a head in the northern Great Plains, with feed alone eating $610 of it. On 500 cows, that's roughly $925,000 a year, before land costs, before debt, before one calf is sold. Feed is the biggest line item because grass doesn't grow year-round. A cow needs a bale every 3 to 4 days in winter. 500 cows, 150 days, $125,000 to $300,000 in hay in a normal year. Add vet costs, $20,000 to $30,000, labor, taxes, insurance, fuel, and this is a business with a payroll and a maintenance schedule, 7 days a week with no off-season. 500 cows, a strong 90% calving rate, 450 calves. At a realistic blended price near $2,200 a head, that's roughly $1 million in gross revenue. Against that, total costs on a well-run operation, $900,000 to $1.1 million. Net profit in a good year, somewhere between $0 and $100,000, against an initial investment of $7 to $12 million in land, infrastructure, and cattle. That's a cash return of roughly 0 to 1.4%. A credit union savings account beats it. And that assumed a strong market and a normal winter. A drought, a late blizzard, or a soft cattle market can flip that same operation to a $300,000 plus loss in a single year, which is exactly what happened to multi-generational Texas ranching families during the drought of the early 2020s. Families who worked the same land for 75 years and still got wiped out.
So why do billionaires keep buying ranches at prices no cattle operation could ever justify?
Ted Turner, 2 million acres. John Malone, over 2 million. Bezos and Gates have both assembled major ranch holdings. They're not buying calves. They're buying privacy. A 100,000-acre property is an address that barely exists. They're buying appreciation. U.S. agricultural land climbs reliably over decades. No earnings misses, no bad quarters. And they're buying conservation easement tax deductions, permanently restricting development in exchange for a charitable deduction that can shelter tens of millions in tax exposure, while they keep using the land exactly as before. That's why so many ranches run far fewer cattle than the land could support. The cattle aren't the business, the tax status is. The difference between ranchers who build wealth and ranchers who go broke isn't intelligence or work ethic. Everyone in this business works brutally hard. It's cash reserves, it's more than one revenue stream, and it's surviving the bad year without selling the land, because the land is the whole game. The cattle pay the light bill, the land builds the wealth, slowly, over decades, through appreciation and tax efficiency no other asset class quite replicates. Can a ranch make you rich? Yes, just probably not through the cattle, and not on the timeline you had in your head the first time you pictured the sun coming up over land that was yours.